Hello again, my gnomes, and welcome back to the MT and me. We are getting well into the month of December now, although you might not know it by this week's weather. Remember in the last video, it was getting so chilly that my fingers were getting numb and hard to work on the carburetor? Remember that? Well, today, it's 75 degrees. No, really. It's 75 degrees. This is December in the Mid-South. You just never know. But since it is some nice weather, we're going to take advantage of it and do some more carburetor work. Today, it's vacuum hose business on the MT and me. I don't think it works that way. Okay. I can't believe how warm it is today. This first week of December, and we're in the 70s. That is just incredible. Before I get started on the vacuum tubing today, though, I've got a couple of updates for you. First thing, I found my half-inch wrench, so I got the carburetor all snugged down like it needed to be. Did that off camera, since watching me tighten bolts is not the most exciting thing in the world. So, but it is all snugged down and ready to go now. Told you I had one, I just had to find it, which can be more of a challenge sometimes. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure I found the right throttle stud for the carburetor, and I've ordered it. Should be here in a few days. We'll get it put in and find out if it's going to do the trick as far as linking up the throttle control arm that comes from the accelerator pedal, attaching that to the carburetor along with the cruise control connection, and of course the transmission knockdown connection as well. It's called a throttle bar as well. So anyway, we've got all that to work on a later video. Okay, as soon as we get that stud in, I'll get out here and we'll see if it's going to work. So cross your fingers with me, okay? As for today, I want to try to get a little vacuum tubing hooked up. Now, some of what's on here is in good condition, and I'm just going to use the existing tubing for now, for our, I guess you'd call testing purposes, as we work to get the engine running. We're going to let that go for now. Later on, you know, when we get ready to make the finishing touches, hey, I can go through and replace all the vacuum tubing, and that won't take but just a few seconds once we know everything where it's going to hook up and work. All right. Now, there is one thing I do have to work on, though, and that is the that section of metal tubing that goes to the brake amplifier, the vacuum amplifier on the power brakes, because that's been snipped. Now, we're going to have to recut that, get a clean cut, and see if I can't bridge it with some tubing. I also need to actually try to move the solid metal tubing, the copper tubing, and reroute it. So that's going to be the first project. And it starts with getting the mount for that piece of copper tubing disconnected from the manifold. This hopefully isn't going to be a tremendous problem. We've got one bolt here that's holding this mount on. And it is very firmly attached to the engine. Oh, there it goes, there it goes. Oh, okay. All right, whew. Wait a minute. I catch my breath. That's a tough bolt. Okay. And now it's just easy as pie. So, all right. Let's get this bolt out. I should note this is also connected to, it's a mount for the air conditioner compressor. It's like a support. So I'm hoping I can just disconnect it, pull this little framing out, and maybe do something with it. I don't know why. We've got to get it out of here and see what the deal is first, okay? Alright. I wonder if it'd be possible to just, if I could just turn that thing around. I don't know if it would secure itself that way or not. If I could do that, I think I'm going to have to do some reshaping on this. So, tell you what, we have that disconnected for the time being. Let me put this bolt back in place so we don't lose it. That may be easier said than done. Why can't anything be simple? Let's see if we can't hook a little bit of these other vacuum hoses up in the meantime. At least I can show you where they go, and we can see how they're going to fit, and then we'll come back to this problem hose and see what we're going to have to do to it. Okay. So anyway, first of all, we have the large heavy hose that's coming from the PCV valve. It's a little bit rowdy, but it's a vinyl clad hose is the reason. So we're going to stick with it for a while. It can go on any of these large ports on the carburetor. This one is closest. I'm going to push it on there. That's a nice snug fit. Could just as easily go on this other one over here, but it's Mox Nix, as they say. This is the vacuum hose from the cruise control. It needs manifold vacuum as well. Should be able to get that from the base of the carburetor. And I've got a small connection right here that I think will work. Seems to be a little bit loose for this hose. So I may want to size it down, or we might put a hose clamp around that to be sure we don't get a vacuum leak. Okay. Now this one up here on the side of the carburetor that you can probably barely see is the one that I think my vacuum advance on the distributor needs to go to. Get this over here out of the way for the time being. And it will easily, it reaches, but it's a nice snug fit because there is a bulb on the end of that little spout to hold it in place. So that should be no problem. Okay, now I do see a potential problem here though. This is the little temperature, the automatic manifold temperature control for the automatic choke. It snaps right in there on the carburetor. It's rubbing that hose. So I may have to look at getting another fitting or some sort of T-fitting to keep that hose away so that they don't interfere with each other, because this needs to move freely as the engine, I believe as the engine heats up, this pulls down, and normally it holds the choke open, and that way it'll hold it open or closed. Anyway, it may work the other way, I'm not sure, but it works one way or the other. And it has to be able to move freely. That's the point. So we don't want that hose rubbing against it. Now, at this point, those are the 3 vacuum connections that I have, except for this right here. I'm pretty sure, get a piece of my large hose here. If I can do it without knocking the tripod down on the camera. If anything, that might be a little big, but I do have a smaller size that I think will go just fine and fitting over that. And that way I can put a hose clamp on it just to be sure. And that way I can reconnect this copper line. The issue is going to be routing that copper line so that it stays out of the way and doesn't interfere with the carburetor or the operation of anything else. And it's going to have to stay under. You remember, we've got a breather assembly that sits on top here that's going to come down and cover the entire top of the engine. So we have to allow for that as well. So there's obviously still a little bit of figuring to do, as the saying goes. But for the time being, at least we know that 3 of our vacuum connections are easily going to be hooking up on the carburetor. Might have to modify that distributor vacuum advance connection. There are some other places that I think that can be connected. I'll do a little research and find out. If not, then we'll have to do something to be sure it doesn't interfere with the temperature control on the choke. So, like I said, nothing's ever as simple as it looks, but you got to remember, we're hooking up a carburetor here that really wasn't necessarily built for this engine, and it's not the one that came on it. So, and plus, I don't know how the one that did come on it actually interfaced as well. So it's just going to be kind of hit and miss. And until we can actually get the motor in a good running condition, we really won't know if all the vacuum is secure or not. But at least we can have it appearing so at the beginning and hope that we've got it close, if not perfect. It'd be wonderful if it worked first thing, but I don't necessarily look for an out-of-the-box solution here. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I am looking forward to getting my little throttle connector, though, later this week, and hopefully we'll get it in time to maybe even use it in this video. If not, certainly next week to show you how that is going to work. But right now, at least we've made a little bit of progress in getting a few vacuum hoses hooked up, and I have to work out a plan to take care of this one. So we're going to leave it at that for the time being, and maybe come back out here tomorrow and see if we can't make some more progress on getting this taken care of. Welcome back. You're on the MT and me. Well, it's another day, and you may remember when we last left you, we had disconnected this vacuum line, which goes to the brake, the power brake amplifier, and this end should connect to the manifold to give us manifold vacuum. That's this point right here. Well, that's been snipped. It's been cut a long time ago. So the idea is to reroute this, maybe do a little bending on it so that it fits around this new carburetor a little bit better and still reaches this same point to reconnect. And we can take a little sleeve of vacuum hose and connect these 2 points together, and once again we'll have our solid vacuum connection between the manifold and the power brakes, which is extremely important for the power brakes to work. And yes, we want the brakes to work. First thing we're going to have to do is cut this copper tubing and get these crimped areas off. I think I have just the tool for that. Okay, trying to find the best angle so that you can watch what I'm doing here. Let's start with seeing if we can take about, I don't know, just half an inch off of this line. I really hope this little saw is going to do the trick. Okay, it is just barely scratching the surface of that. So maybe I need to find something else to cut with. I don't think I have an actual copper line cutting tool, so we may have to improvise. In a case of going from one extreme to the other, think this will do the trick. If I can handle it in this tight place, that's going to be the challenge. I don't want to cut any of my wiring. Let's get it back out of the way. See if we can't cut this small tube off. Well, that definitely did the trick. Now we have to get the other one cut off. That may be a bit more of a challenge since I don't have it fastened down anymore. Let's see what we can come up with. Well, a few sparks, but I think I got the job done. Now let's see if we can find a piece of vacuum hose that'll fit snugly over this line and connect these two pieces. Well, I'm betting that the half-inch hose I have is going to be a little big. So I've taken 3 inches of this, which I think is probably a 3/8 approximately on the inside diameter. See, it's nice and clean. I can see you all the way through it. Right. Anyway, let's see if this will fit on this tubing. Make a connection. Oh yeah. Good snug fit. Oh, we're perfect. And we'll be able to put this in. And we'll get our connection back, and then all we have to do is get this in position. But you know, before I hook this up, I really need to do a little shaping on this. I'm thinking if I straighten this bend out here just a little bit, that's going to give me plenty of clearance. And the question is, how hard is it going to be to straighten that bend out? Here again, I don't have the proper things for bending copper line. And this stuff can crimp pretty easily. I do know that. So let's see. Okay, we got that. Let's get this and see if we can't. Yeah, bend it. Sure. Why not? Much easier said than done. I know you people who work with copper line for a living are laughing at me. I realize that. But you know what? That's okay. Because I don't work with copper line for a living. And I'm sure you can see why. You know what? Maybe if I get this completely out of that vacuum hose, it'll be a lot easier to manipulate. Okay, there we are. Now, I just really need to maybe get this bend out of it. So let me go see if I can do that. Okay, I think I have accomplished what I want to do here. I've already got the copper tube attached on the manifold end, and it seems to be routing okay. I'm going to see if we can get the other end, the rubber hose that actually goes to the brake amplifier, reattached, and then we'll see about pinning it back down with that little clamp on it. Now, I know that sounds a little confusing, me trying to describe it, so just watch and let's see if all this falls together like I'm hoping it will. I cross my fingers a lot in these videos, don't I? It seems to help so far. So, double cross. Yeah. So here you can see this is secured with the tube. This will attach back here on that back corner again. Let's see if we can get this reattached. Okay, that's secured. I still have no idea what this originally went to. Something needing manifold pressure. We'll work that out later. Let's stick with the problem at hand. Now, let's see if we can get that little clamp reattached where it belongs. Well, obviously something's not catching here. Okay. There's just enough tension on this mounting arm that it puts tension on that bolt, and it makes it hard to get it started. But if you ever get it started, it'll do just fine. Alright, well, boys and girls, this is another one of those situations where the simplest task becomes the hardest part of the job. Finally, I think I got it. There we are. This is now secured the way it was. We have a secure connection here. I don't even think we'll have to put pipe clamps on that. That is snug enough. And we're secured again back here, going to the brake amplifier. And we've got plenty of clearance here. It's not touching the carburetor. We got room for the fuel line to hook up, which goes in right here on the carb. So I'm thinking that that vacuum repair is complete. And I'm considering that quite an accomplishment. So with that, we're going to stop where we are. We've got the vacuum hoses that I know need to be hooked up. I've got that one hose coming off the amplifier. I'm not sure about that. Maybe the cruise control could hook up there rather than on the base of the carburetor, because we are still looking at the basic manifold pressure at that point. That's what goes to the brake amplifier. But then again, they really recommend that you don't branch things off of the brake amplifier vacuum. Well, obviously somebody has already done that, and it worked. Who am I to question? It was a pretty good mechanic that originally owned a Pearl some years ago, so he knew a lot more than me. But I'm learning a lot as we go along. I hope maybe you are too. It's a learning process together. Thanks for bearing with me through the vacuum assembly. Now, in a few days, I'm expecting to get the actual throttle pin for Pearl's carburetor. So that'll be the next thing we put in. Assuming, of course, I have the right one. We'll find out. You be sure and join me for that, okay? In the meantime, don't forget we've got a big holiday special coming up. It's now probably about 2 weeks away. Not the next video, but the next. As we get close to the Christmas holiday, get ready. It's coming up here on the MT and Me. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already. There's a link below where you can, one click and you can do that. Give me a thumbs up. That helps my YouTube algorithm considerably. Thumbs up and a like. Share this video and watch every weekend here on the MT and Me. Thank you so much for your continued viewing and support. I really do appreciate you. And I look forward to next week. Hope you'll be here. I'll try to make it myself. In the meantime, I'm Russ. And we will... Blah, blah, blah. We'll try that again. See, this is my pose fan. In the meantime, I'm Russ. All right, get serious. In the meantime, I'm Russ, and we will talk later. And to think I make my living talking on the radio. Like I just said, sometimes it's the simplest things that give you the biggest problems. I'm going to go inside now. Bye, till next week.